a small neighborhood, but it's apparently very, very loud. So if you can hear all those cars, people going to work, I hope that you don't mind that much. I also have a couple of puppies sleeping around me and a loud bunny that is going around like crazy. So, the story of my life, it's basically a zoo, but I made it okay. If you are in the Medford area, when was this? This was Saturday morning, and you had to drive 15 miles per hour in that mountain pass on 140, and you were hating who was in front of you. That was me. I couldn't believe how much snow was over there. And I have PTSD. I had a very traumatic thing happen during a winter storm here in Utah years ago. And if you'd ask me today, what's your worst fear? Literally is driving in the snow. I feel so out of my element, so out of control. And driving a big vehicle like I do, it was traumatizing. So, if you were one of those 30 cars behind me, I apologize. I hope that you got over it. Anyways, for those of you that are new to the channel, welcome. For those coming back, thank you for coming back each week for new cases. If you're part of Patreon, there's a new video available today already, Monday, December the 21st. It's a pretty crazy one, and it will be kind of tied to other cases in a particular place where it is believed that something dark is making people either disappear or die there. Check it out if you are part of the Patreon family. And for those of you who are interested, I'll have a link down below. Get ready. I have this series planned for the month of January with a couple of extra videos for the month of January if you are in the second tier. So, get ready. It's gonna be wild. Now, if you can't go to Patreon, or you can't afford it, or you don't care to do that, thank you for being here. Just by watching this video, you are supporting my channel. So thank you so much. Please remember to like it and leave a comment down below. I'm super active in the comments, so I'd love to know what you think, or anything really you want to share with me. It's welcome. Let's talk about today's case that is kind of tied to the Gainesville Ripper. I have a video that I'll link on the top of the screen and the description box down below. If you haven't heard that story, case I should say, you have to, because it's a pretty wild one, and it connects to somebody in this case. It is wild. It's one of those things that you're like, nobody should have to go through this once and twice. It shouldn't even be possible, but as you can see, or as you are going to see in this case, apparently it's not impossible. So we go all the way down to Florida today, to College Park to be more specific. is on Poland Street. The corner, it's Mexico. So it's a very interesting village, needless to say. And I guess in this case it was all around universities. This town is described as a charming place with historic homes, restaurants, and good shopping. And it doesn't hurt that it's nearby Orlando, which is one of the happiest places on earth, isn't it? With all the theme parks and tourists coming from different places. It really seemed like the perfect place to live for Jim and Carla Larson. Now, Carla was a very successful engineer and was working on this part of the Coronado Springs Resort and Convention Center in Walt Disney World. And again, this was in the construction stages. It was a huge project, and Carla was very devoted to her work. They found this cottage in Princeton Court, and they were overall excited to live there. Jim, Carla's husband, found a job at the local hardware store, and they were expecting and excited to Carla become a mom. She just couldn't wait. She was described as a loyal person, dependable, and a very happy attitude. 6 months after moving, they had their daughter, Jessica, and it seemed like everything was kind of falling into place. Successful career, wonderful place to live. Now they have their daughter. They were happy. On Tuesday, June 10th, 1997, Carla got up, fed her baby. Her husband had breakfast with her and then went to work. When Carla was done feeding the baby, she took him to daycare and went straight to work. She worked from 8 a.m. till noon, and then she tells a co-worker that she's going to grab lunch and asked if she knew a local grocery store nearby so she could go buy snacks for that day's meeting. This was an important meeting with, I'm not sure if it was an investor or who it was, but it involved the entire team. Her co-worker told her that there was this new Publix on International Drive. So Carla left, and she was supposed to be back for that very important meeting. So she leaves, and almost 3 hours go by, and she hasn't come back. Everyone at work started to panic because they knew how responsible she was and how important this meeting was for her and the team. So they decided to call her husband immediately to kind of figure out if maybe there was an emergency with her daughter or husband and she had to leave or what happened. But Jim says that he has no idea where she is, and he immediately leaves work, goes to the daycare place, picked up their daughter, and waited by the phone at home. He was hoping that Carla was gonna call or go to the house, but by 7 p.m. he realized that she's not coming back. He has that feeling that she's not coming back. So he realized that she was in trouble. When the police arrives, they find Jim in a weird state. He was kind of upset, but he was saying, "She's not coming back. This happened before. I know she's not coming back." So the police started to look around the house, and Jim was like, "Just go look for her. I know something bad happened." And it made it look like maybe he had something to do with what happened to his wife. So the police decided to dig a little bit deeper into this guy's head. Then he explains that he was Sonya's Larson's brother. You probably don't remember by name, but she was one of the first two victims of the Gainesville Ripper. For those of you who haven't watched that video or haven't heard, this was the guy that killed 5 college students over a period of 4 days in the summer of 1994. I mean, by now the guy was convicted, and I think he was already executed. Maybe not, but you get the idea. He couldn't have done it. But Jim was traumatized. I mean, can you blame him? And he had a terrible feeling about Carla. It was kind of weird for the police to see that the husband jumped to conclusions and worst case scenarios already, but you always have, the husband as a suspect in the beginning of any investigation like this. So they were being extra interested in him while he was begging them to go out and look for her. They checked Carla's credit card, and the last time she used it was at the grocery store. And she used it for something for, I don't know, it was less than $10. She bought snacks, including fruit, and left the place at around 12:15 p.m. After that, there is no more activity in her card. The police moved on to the co-workers. They interviewed this guy, and he's like, "Well, we went out for lunch too, and we were all in the same truck, I think, or vehicle, and they were driving by this wooded area that is in between the job site and the grocery store, and they see a white SUV that looked like Carla's SUV coming out of this particular wooded area. The SUV was so similar. I mean, they thought it was Carla, so they look at the driver, but they realized that this is a guy. They described him as a white male in his 30s, medium build, with dark hair and very sun-tanned. So they put together this sketch and release it to the media to try to find some help from the public. So they put together this massive search for the wooded area, and it lasted 36 hours. On June 12th, a couple of co-workers decided to go back to the woods to keep looking, even though it was combed and there was nothing there before. But they was a hunter. So they decided to use this trick, and I know about this trick. I've heard it from several people, but all you do is they call it, I guess it's the match. Match is something I can't remember, but you light a match, blow it, and then you watch which direction the smoke is going. So that way they can face the wind and follow the smell, basically, or where the smell is coming from. And that's where they found Carla's body. She had a towel over her body. She was naked. Her clothes and jewelry were missing. And they immediately reported to the police. They realized that it was they assumed, I should say, that this was a robbery because the jewelry that was missing was very expensive, between $5,000 to $6,000, between some earrings and this, I guess it was a pendant kind of thing that she got from work. Sadly, her body was very decomposed because of the hot and humid weather. So part of the evidence was gone, or some of the crucial evidence that they were looking for was basically gone. When they did the autopsy, it was revealed that she was strangled. And even though she was naked, she was not sexually assaulted. So the police were kind of like, it's very convenient that you go and you find the body, right? I mean, they combed the area and they've been to that specific place. So how did they miss it? So they looked into the backgrounds of the guys that found her body, and one of them had a criminal record and included sexual assault. So they look into him and they ask him, particularly where he was between, the time that she disappeared. And he said that he was one of the guys that went out for lunch and was in the vehicle that spotted the SUV, Carla's SUV, leaving the wooded area. 2 weeks after the police, I think it was 2 weeks after the autopsy, but it could have been 2 weeks after they found the body, they get a call from another jurisdiction, and they said that they found an SUV that matched the one they were looking for. It was on fire at Cocoa Beach. When they went there, they realized that it did fit the description, but this one was black. But quickly realized that somebody had spray painted a white SUV and to use some black. Oh, my dog is snoring. Can you hear her? Anyways, the police tow it to their garage. The VIN number matched, and something was missing. A radar detector that was kind of installed into the dash. It wasn't something that was easily removed, but it was gone. The police had shared with the media a lot of information, including this sketch, and they were getting hundreds of calls in their tip line. One of them was very interesting and came from a lady by the name of Crystal. showed up one day with an SUV like the one they were looking for. So the police go and pay her a visit, and she gives them a statement. She explained that she was in Orlando the day that Carla disappeared, that they were in this little vacation, and that she drove her small car with her husband and kids to this hotel. Apparently, they got into this huge fight, and that he became violent that night when they arrived. Apparently, he wanted to have intimacy with his wife, and she didn't. So he ended up choking her. She got away and locked herself in the bathroom. When she noticed that he was sleeping, I guess he was snoring. So she left the bathroom and went to the next door room where her kids were sleeping and stayed with them. When they woke up, he was not there, and they were supposed to leave. They had the one car, and that was the one way he could go back home with them. So she waited for him, and he came back at around 2 p.m. the day that Carla disappeared. He was sweaty with marking in his face. He was very nervous, and she described his appearance like he was in some kind of a fight. He tells them, I have something to do, so go ahead and leave, and I will catch up with you guys later. So Crystal left with the kids and went to her mom's house. They were staying there. It's not like she left him, left the house she had with him to go live with her mom. They were both staying with her mom. And later on the day, he pulled up in the white SUV with tinted windows. And when she asked where he got that from, he said that it was a rental. She then said that he was letting his buddy Nick use it. So it was not at her mom's house. Then she said something like John left her. So her husband left her for her sister Lacey. Poor mother. You think that you got rid of the guy. You're like, oh, finally, my son-in-law, who is not good for my daughter, will be leaving them alone. And then you realize that no, he just switched to the other daughter. It's kind of a mess. But she said that she didn't know where he was. John had a record of armed robbery and even bank robbery. So the police needed to find him. They went to Nick's house hoping that he was there, but he wasn't. Nick's girlfriend was there, and she told the police that yes, there was a white SUV there, and it was parked at, apparently she had a spot where she parked her car, and the SUV was taking that spot. So she was very sure and upset that that vehicle was there for as long as it was. The interesting part, though, was that this house was a quarter of a mile away from where they found the vehicle burning. Eventually, they got a call from Maryland, and apparently they got John, and they were holding him for some charges that he apparently had police was looking for him because of this, but also he had a warrant for his arrest. So they were holding him there. When the police get to him, they ask him about Carla, and he said that he didn't know who she was. He said he was in fact in Orlando that day, but that he never met her. He also mentioned that Crystal was framing him because she wanted to be with his buddy Nick. And the best way that she could do that was by sending John to prison to get him out of the way. They go back to Nick's house. And this time they find him, and he looks very much like the sketch that they have out for the guy that was driving Carla's SUV out of the woods that day that she disappeared. Well, this guy Nick said that John did bring the vehicle to his house, and he said that it was a rental. But when he looked inside, he knew it wasn't. And one of the weird things that he noticed is that it had a radar. He also said that John removed it and left it in his yard. And at that point, Nick said that he got scared that maybe that was stolen property, so he picked it up and dropped it somewhere. He tells the police exactly where he dropped it, and that's when the police can confirm that it was Carla's. Now they can connect not only the car to John and Nick, but also, the specific thing that was in that car, and put John in Orlando. Not only that, the hotel was across the street from the place where she was getting the snacks from. So the police look into Nick because of how similar he looked to the sketch, but it was confirmed that he was at work 1 hour away from where Carla was at. They looked into Crystal, and she was in the hotel or at the hotel with the kids, and people testified that she was in fact there. The only one at this point without an alibi is John, which this is all great and all, but it's all circumstantial evidence. There's no DNA, there's no fingerprints, there's nothing specifically that can prove that John did it. They can prove that he took her vehicle, they can prove that he took it to his friend's house, but as far as removing the radar and setting it on fire, that's all speculation. So the police looked into the theory that Crystal and Nick wanted to be together, but the truth was that they didn't even like each other. They didn't get along, and it was all a lie. So they looked into Nick's alibi again, and they had different, apparently in the beginning it was confirmed by work, but then they had witnesses that said that he never left. So now they charge John with a murder. Well, they charge him with a bunch of things. Let me see, I have some in my notes here. Carjacking, robbery, kidnapping, and first-degree murder, to be more specific. On January 25th, 1999, he pleads not guilty, and he continued with the idea that Crystal set him up. The theory is that he showed her, well, the theory of the prosecution was that he showed her the gun, which was a BB gun that then they found that he had in his possession when he was in Maryland. So they believe that he intimidated her with a gun, and they went to this wooded area where he planned to take her jewelry and money and sexually assault her too. But apparently he couldn't perform, so he got mad and killed her. Then he decided to again take the jewelry. On June 1999, he was found guilty, and on June 1999, he was sentenced to death. He appealed on a technicality. As far as I understand, there was a tape that the prosecution there was a tape that his defense had, and it was not used, and so he tried to appeal based on that. And he was retried, and I think, I'm not 100% sure if this is the first time, but I think I read in one of the articles that this was the first time that somebody was resentenced to death. Because he was initially in 1999, he reappealed and was resentenced on September 2002. He continued to appeal, begging for his life, and now I found this date, November 27th, 2006, he was declared incompetent, so I'm assuming he is not on death row. Couldn't find something that specifically said he is or he isn't on death row today, or I couldn't find something that said that he was dead, so I'm assuming that he is alive, or passed away by, getting sick or something like that, but not because of this death sentence. Now, this is one of those stories that doesn't make much sense, to me anyways, in my head, because I think that when you think of a kidnapping, you think of something very well orchestrated, thought out, understanding, the risk of what you're doing, and understanding that you either are very careful and the person doesn't see your face, or you know exactly how much money you are gonna be able to get out of it. And okay, this is kind of a spur of the moment decision that he made. She was right there when he was out, and I guess looking for somebody to steal from, kind of an opportunity for him to get something. And sadly, she was the one that was there and took advantage of that. However, I feel like it's like one of those weird scenarios because I've been to Florida. I think it was Christmas 2005, and Publix is it's not a desolated place, it's one of those grocery drugstore kind of thing, that it's very busy, and I assume there was people around. She did not park in an isolated it seemed like she went straight to go get that instead of having lunch and then go get the snacks. A typical case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. So, I find it weird that she was taken at noon from a busy parking lot in a busy place across the street from a hotel, and nobody saw anything. I'm assuming that nowadays in 2020 there are cameras pretty much everywhere, and I don't think it'd be a possibility to do something like that and not be spotted by any kind of security camera. But it's just one of those things that you're like, my goodness, I mean, she was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And on top of that, it kind of went against everything, I guess, for being such a horrible crime that happened in the middle of the day. So ruthless, so violent, and so I don't want to call it stupid, but you know, what did he think he was gonna get out of this? I have no idea. Some people said that by him trying to cover her with a towel, the towel that he used to kill her, it was basically kind of, I don't know, suggesting that he was ashamed of what he did, but I don't know if that was the case or if he was just sloppy and doing stuff that he wasn't thinking. I assume that people that commit these crimes really are not thinking straight. I assume. But I guess this is just taking somebody else's life because you are upset at your partner and in need of money, so you kind of put two and two together and you do this and you risk everything, basically your freedom, including knowing that you have a warrant. Just I find some of these people that think they can pull off a kidnapping like this just so ignorant and so evil, because you know, she's now gone. Her daughter doesn't have her anymore. Her husband had to go through this loss to a violent crime twice in his life, and you know, I was telling somebody, the fire department, we were talking to these people that had 3 different fires, and I don't know if it was 2 or 3 different homes, and they were like, 1 is enough, and I'm like, no, 0 is enough. And this guy had to go through this horrible, violent series of crimes twice in his lifetime, and you know, having to be that person that everyone think you did it because you're acting suspicious. And the guy was like, in one of the interviews I watched, he was like, I don't know how you are expected to behave when you are in this position. Maybe I didn't read the book of how you should react to this situation, but I don't think anybody should be ready to act a certain way. Just so stupid. But a terrible this. They just